Hello and welcome to Idea TV News Update. I am Chinatu Oji. Let's begin with the headlines. FG doubles passport fees to 100,000 and 200,000 amid public outcry. UNICEF, NBA push for urgent justice reforms to protect Nigerian children. BHM, ALLISON to spotlight African innovation at UNGA 80 Breakfast Forum. First U.S. deportees arrive in Rwanda amid rights concerns. Away from Africa, the UK and France, Germany trigger UN SNAPBACK sanctions on Iran over nuclear escalation. In business, NSACC targets youth South Africa trade. In sport, as the SACC's future hangs in the balance. Now the news in full. Nigerians seeking new passports will now pay double the previous fees. The federal government announced a fresh hike effective September 1st, 2025. The Nigerian Immigration Service confirmed that a 32-page passport will now cost 100,000 naira, while the 64-page option will go for 200,000 naira. However, applicants in the diaspora will continue to pay $150 and $230 respectively. This marks the third increment in less than 2 years, coming after the September 2024 adjustment that raised fees from 35,000 to 50,000 for the 32-page passport and from 70,000 to 100,000 for the 64-page version. Minister of Interior Dr. Lubumi Tunjojo defended the increase, citing the need to sustain reforms such as 24-hour passport processing, backlog clearance, and improved security features. But the policy has sharp criticism. Former presidential candidate Peter Obi described it as insensitive, noting that new fees exceed the recently approved 70,000 minimum wage. Civil society groups also warned that the hike could make passports inaccessible for ordinary Nigerians and push some toward irregular migration. While the government insists the higher charges are necessary to improve service delivery, many Nigerians fear that the decision will worsen inequality and limit access to essential travel documents. Moving on, the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, and the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, have renewed calls for urgent reforms to safeguard children's rights in Nigeria's justice system. Speaking at the 2025 NBA Annual General Conference in Enugu, UNICEF country representative Wafa Said stressed that children should not be behind bars simply because of the circumstances, urging a shift toward protection and reintegration. NBA President Afam Osigwe admitted that while progress has been made with child protection laws, weak enforcement remains a major hurdle. He pledged the NBA's continued collaboration with UNICEF to promote alternatives to child detention, strengthen legal aid, and push for the full implementation of the Child Rights Act across all 36 states. The high-level session themed Ending Child Detention, the role of NBA in advancing justice and reintegration, was part of the annual gathering of over 20,000 legal professionals, policymakers, academics, and civil society leaders. The partnership aims to reduce overcrowding in juvenile facilities, expand access to justice, and ensure every Nigerian child enjoys protection, dignity, and the opportunity for a better future. Moving on. Black House Media, BHM, and ALLISON Worldwide, in partnership with the King's Trust, will bring together top African business, policy, and cultural leaders at the second edition of the African Conversations on the sidelines of the 80th United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, in New York. The exclusive event set for September 26 at the World Trade Center will highlight Africa's role as a global hub for innovation, sustainable development, and youth-driven growth. Themed African Innovation, Building Together for Sustainable Development. The gathering will feature panel discussions, keynote addresses, and networking sessions with a focus on technology, business, creative industries, and diaspora engagement. Ayeni Adekunle, founder of BHM, emphasized the forum's role in bridging Africa with the global economy. Organizers say the event will also spotlight youth empowerment, skills development, and leadership opportunities, showcasing African-led solutions at the center of global discussions. Moving on, Rwanda has received the first group of migrants deported from the United States under a deal with President Donald Trump's administration, making the country a new destination in Washington's sweeping mass deportation plan. Government spokesperson Yolande Makolo confirmed that 7 vetted migrants arrived in mid-August out of the 250 expected. She said 4 chose to stay in Rwanda, while 3 opted to return to their home countries. Makolo said, adding that they are currently being hosted by an international organization with visits from the International Organization of Migration, IOM, and Rwandan Social Services. Rights group, however, have warned that the deportations could breach international law if migrants are returned to places where they risk persecution or torture. Trump has made large-scale deportations a central policy in his second term, with Rwanda among a dozen countries now taking in deportees. The move echoes Rwanda's previous migration deals, including the one with UK in 2022 that was later scrapped after political and legal challenges, despite Britain paying Kigali £240 million and funding new housing facilities. Rwanda, which has hosted nearly 3,000 refugees evacuated from Libya under UN-AU agreement since 2019, insists that it is offering safety despite international criticism of its human rights record. We go on a quick break now, the news continues when we return. If you are just joining us, this is still Idea TV News Update. Now the rest of the stories. Away from Africa, the UK, France and Germany have launched a formal move to reimpose sweeping UN sanctions on Iran, escalating tensions over Tehran's advancing nuclear program. The was known as the EU invoked a 2015 Accord SNAPBACK mechanism in a letter to the UN Security Council yesterday, warning that Iran's action posed a clear threat to international peace and security. The sanctions originally lifted under the landmark deal could return within 30 days unless blocked by the Council. The E3 accused Iran of deliberate non-compliance, citing its stockpile of highly enriched uranium with no civilian justification. Tehran vowed appropriate responses, but added it was open to fair and balanced negotiations if approached with seriousness and goodwill. The United States welcomed the E3's decision, pledging to work with them on completing the snapback process, while also expressing readiness for direct engagement with Iran to seek a lasting solution. The 2015 nuclear deal, which lifted crippling economic sanctions in exchange for limits on Iran's nuclear activities, collapsed after former U.S. President Donald Trump withdrew from it in 2018 and reimposed sanctions. Since then, Iran has steadily expanded its nuclear program, fueling fears of a new crisis. The UN Security Council now faces a 30-day deadline to decide whether sanctions relief continues or lapses. And now in business. The Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce NSACC has unveiled fresh plans to boost youth participation and empower small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, as part of efforts to deepen trade ties between the two countries. At the Chamber's monthly breakfast session, Chairman Dr. Ije Jidema said the body has shifted focus to innovation, digital engagement, and opportunities for young people in the digital economy. Director Folusho Phillips highlighted the role of the media in correcting misconceptions and fostering stronger relations, while immediate past chairman Osayabagi Osagi noted that more than 40 bilateral agreements between both nations remain largely unimplemented, calling for stronger government support. The Chamber also encouraged exchange programs for students, professionals, and journalists, stressing that direct interaction is key to breaking stereotypes and building lasting partnerships. And finally, in sports, Newcastle United are on the verge of sealing a club record move for German striker WOLTEMADE from Stuttgart, sparking fresh questions over the future of Alexander Isak. The 23-year-old, who scored 17 goals last season and impressed at the under-21 Euros, arrived on Tyneside yesterday and is undergoing a medical. Reports suggest the deal could surpass the £63 million Newcastle paid for Isak 3 years ago. Head coach Eddie Howe said the move was developing in a good way, but stopped short of confirming Isak's future, noting the Swedish forward has not trained with the squad amid Liverpool's renewed interest following their rejected £110 million bid. Should the WOLTEMADE deal go through, it could pave the way for ISAK'S exit, though Newcastle insists they will only sell if their conditions are met, securing two strikers and a suitable offer. WOLTEMADE's arrival would mark a rapid rise for the 6 feet 6 inches forward, once dismissed as raw but now regarded as one of Europe's most exciting attacking prospects. And that's the most we can take on Idea TV News Updates. But before we go, a quick recap of the headlines. FG doubles passport fees to 100,000 naira and 200,000 naira amid public outcry. UNICEF and NBA push for urgent justice reforms to protect Nigerian children. BHM and ALLISON set to spotlight African innovation at UNGA 80 Breakfast Forum. First, U.S. deportees arrive in Rwanda and made right concern away from Africa. The UK, France, and Germany trigger UN SNAPBACK sanctions on Iran over nuclear re-escalation. In business, NSACC targets youth and SMEs to strengthen Nigeria's South African trade. In sports, Newcastle closing on record WOLTEMADE signing as ISAK'S future hangs in the balance. Do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms at Idea Television. I am Chinatu Oji. Thank you for watching.